Hello there, Monogame fans and Solidarity brothers and sisters. Here we are again for another session on the dark side of Monogame, and here with this time we're going to go through about getting projects set up. There's a few comments on the Monogame community forums about new starters, how to best set up a project, especially looking to create your project on multiple platforms, how to manage the code. Very simple high-level walkthrough. So I'm Simon Darkside J, your local ID at Xbox MVP and also a long-time Monogame and XNA developer. So let's jump in. So if we have a quick look at Visual Studio, and we're going to go and create a new XNA project. Now you might wonder how on earth I'm doing this, so you can actually check out the awesome MS XNA's project. If you still want to make XNA projects, there's nothing against it. Well, here I'm going to create a nice little project. It's going to get my awesome game. I'm going to create its own directory, just a simple Windows game. And this is what we had before. So we have our XNA project itself. There's the game project. We have the content project. And then we have the content reference, which links the two. So I can add on my content in here. Let's say let's pull up some sample stuff. So look, using the same stuff we used last time with our lovely little attack knight. Throw him in. There's all the assets are in, and yeah, there's my game running. Now, if I'm using my game here, I've got my Windows game, I've got my Windows project itself. I could then go and add in a new, say, an Xbox project, like so. For doing so, that meant that I had both an Xbox project and a Windows project, as you would expect, but I also had an Xbox content project and a Windows content project, which wasn't necessarily what you wanted. You wanted content. So what you could simply do from the content perspective is remove that. Yep, get rid of it. And then simply add a content reference to our Windows game one, which meant we used the same content for both projects on both Windows and Xbox. And then as these are very similar resolutions, it was nice and easy. But that only sorted out our content. So our content's shared, but what about our game code? Because I've got my Xbox game here and I've got my Windows game over here. So, I'd have to keep typing the code in. Now, you could do a simple process, what's called file linking, where you can simply remove the game project and add it as a link. And just use my Windows game version of the game. And then by adding as a link, I'm not copying the file, I'm using the exact same file in both projects, which means now I've got my code here and I've got code here, and it's the same file now. They both say Windows game. Now, that worked great until then you wanted to start putting more platform specifics in, and then you have to do other things. Now, they did add the ability to have other different project types in here, so we can do a new project, and they have these game libraries. But the problem they had with these is that was still specific to the platform. So in XNA days, we didn't really have a shared way to share code and do it around. You basically just had to have file linking here, then manage it between the two. You could try to create other class libraries, but they didn't reference right, and it was all tricky. And that's what you had. So that was an XNA days. So what about Monogame? Now, Monogame itself still has some of those same limitations because it's still a cross-platform project. So I'm going to create a Windows solution. It's my awesome Monogame. No, I don't want to save that. That's an old XNA project. So there we go. We got our Monogame project. We have our Monogame references. We have our Monogame content project. Now game in our program, and we can simply go and add a new project for another platform. Let's have, say, a OpenGL game. Got game 2, non-original. And again, like the XNA days, I can go and delete the content project, as I showed you in the content project session, and then I can go and simply create another link to existing item, go to my game one, and get its content project. Remembering we've got to do star to find it. And again, we have this as a link, so we're just linking the projects, not creating new. And then as long as I make sure I change the build action to Monogame content reference, I've now got the same content project between the two files. So if I take this project here, I then go and add in my files again. Oops, over here. And I copy them in because that's the best thing to do. Do the same thing for all of them. Close that now. So I've got all my things in here. If I file, save, and as I always recommend, do a quick build, make sure the content's fine. Close that. If I open the one here, then it's the same content project. I'm using the same content between the two. And so again, so long as your projects have the same sort of output resolution or the same kind of asset sizes, you're fine. If you're having a project like, say, a phone project or something that's going to go on a really big screen and you want to change how the content works, you can either share the project as it is now or simply have another content project in here, or have completely separate content projects. The options to you. But again, still I've got the same problem now where I've got game here, game here. I'd recommend the program files leave alone. They're native to the projects. There's where you're going to put platform specific code in for those projects. But the game you want to keep separate. Now, you can do the same again by creating the two there. Now, what I'd probably recommend is if I go to the folder where this is held, Monogame, my awesome Monogame. So there's my two platform projects. Now, what I'd probably recommend here is that you create a new folder and actually have, and this is where you're going to store all the code for both projects. All the common game code, all the drawing code, or anything going to do, which is core to the project itself, just to do with the game. I then take one of the games themselves. So I'm going to take this one. I'm just going to copy it for now, put it into here, and there's my game. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away and then going to delete that one. I'm going to delete that one. And I'm just going to reference my awesome game code from there. And then add as a link. And the benefit of this is that both projects now are identical. There's no one project with all the code. There's no things flying around. The same code, same place, in the same way. That way, every project you've got, and you do that for every single other platform that you add as well. Now, another thing I recommend to do as well is this: change your namespace so that all your game code is in your game namespace. Now, this is good for encapsulation for a game because it means that all your game code is all the same, but it's also not going to conflict with anything you create on the platform. Just in case you have any namespaces, most game engines are the same. If you're creating your game, create your own namespace. So I'm going to call this my game. So there's my awesome game in my awesome code. Now, because I've changed this, I now have to make sure that my platforms know what it is. So I'm going to have to put in a using statement here, my awesome game, so that I can find the game. And in here we want to also change so it's game one, and in here I'm also going to put in my awesome game, and again it's game one. And now both of those should happily build quite happily. So they're both using the same shared code. What's that one complaining? Right, okay. Also, another simple recommendation is that, call your game something else. So I've got game 1, I'm going to say it's my awesome game title. Can't spell awesome now. There you go. I'm going to say there, my awesome game, and in the other title, my awesome game title. So there we go. Now I've got all of those. Oops. Must make sure that's all set. So in my game, I've got the namespace my awesome game, and I've also made sure that the main game class is something unique that's to your game itself. Then in the platforms, they're simply referencing this. So you've got a separation between what is your game and what is on your platform, what's running. Now, what you will still have in some cases, that you're going to have some things which are specific to a platform. So if we look at each of these projects, I'll look at their properties. So in my OpenGL one, basically in the build area, I've got a conditional compilation saying Linux. So in my game, if I got something which is specific to Linux, I can simply go and go hash if Linux. Then if I need something in my game to only happen when it's Linux, it will happen with Linux. If I look at my other title, my other project, and look at the build, you can see this is a Windows project. So then I can actually then also go. So then I'll have some code. So if I put something in here, so if I put something in here, and here I'm going to have which is handy. So as you can see here now, if I'm looking at if I close all of these now to make a bit more sense, I'll close all documents. If I open the game from my Windows solution, you can see that there I've got code that's only running on Windows. If I open it from even though it's the same file, but it's through the Linux project, you can see here now that code's highlighted. That's code only running on Linux. So shared code goes anywhere. Anything platform specific, you put in hash-if blocks so it's specific to itself. So now I've got a game where I've got the same content used by both. And we can demonstrate this simply. We do the same test we did last time. Now I've cheated a bit because I'm using some snippets. Haha. So I'm going to have a texture and call it my night. And then I'm going to go down to my content loading and go my night equals. Now if I go to my content project again, copy the name. Okay, let's use a 10 for a difference. Remember, just a file name, not the extension. Let's put that there. And go down to our drawing code. My night. And just draw a mid-center of the screen. So I save that. Build it. Everything's fine. My startup project is game 1. So I can simply just hit run. And that's going to build it again. But most of the things will be skipped because it's just there. There's my night running. But if I now switch to my other project, which is my OpenGL project, I can either do right-click, set a startup to run it, or I can simply do debug and do start new instance, and I will start that project. I'm going to get exactly the same result. So I've edited one file with one line of code, shared by both projects, and just being run. But if we use the tip we had before, so I've got my if statement here, so I'm going to copy that. And what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to be really crass so that, here we go. I'm only going to draw the night on Windows. I'm not going to draw it for Linux. So in here, I'm going to put simply draw, just to really prove the point of the code is split up. So if I now run my Linux version, I'm not going to see anything because I've not put the draw code on Linux. But if I then go and switch over to my Windows project, and I do the same again, I debug, start new instance, there's my nice happily drawn on the screen. I could add some code to run around and do a wish. Now, 90% of your code, because Monogame is built up from XNA, is all going to be fine. You will not need all of these different preprocessors to actually say it has to be platform specific, because Monogame does that for you. There's a few things like if you're talking to Google Play, or if you're using, say, some Steam logic or anything else that's in there, you might need to do it and might have to have different calls for different platforms because that's the way it works. Same as if you're going to run the game on like Xbox or on PS4, you can have slightly different variations on some places. You might even want to use different assets, so keep them all in one shared content project, but have an Xbox version of one asset and a PS4 version of another asset, just because that's the way it works. You can always just have separate content projects, or, as I pointed out, you can have multiple. So I can have several content projects here. So if I wanted to, I could go and basically, here's my content project tool. I'm going to go File, New. There's my awesome game. And I'm going to create a new folder called my Linux content. And then I go in here, go my, create that there. So nothing in it. So I'm going to, let's put something in it. Let's go back to my resources. Let's see, right. And I don't know why, but I'm going to just put the Knight's body on here. Copy the file over. I'm going to save that. And then additionally on my Linux project, I'm going to simply add here, go my Linux content, the content project file, add as link. Says Monogame reference, and now I've got additional assets which are specific to Linux. You can see it's not on the Windows project, it is under Linux. Now, very clear, if you do this, you must make sure you use preprocessed content directives in your code. There are other strategies for if you're working with multiple projects. You can use things like SOC or dependency injection to make sure that each project only uses the correct things for whichever platforms you can choose and want to do. Wild choice, again, this is just one way, you can do another. There is a slightly more advanced way where we can also use what's called either a shared or a portable content project. The portable class library, if I look in here, so I can create portable class libraries and use those. There is a proof of concept version of the portable class library for Monogame available on NuGet. Use your own discretion. It's not fully realized yet. There's still working plans to make a portable class library version. Or you can also have what's called a shared project, which is something you can have in Xamarin and also UWP projects to be able to share code. And what those give you is that instead of actually having to link the files between projects, which means you have to do that every time you add a new one, then you can actually have an actual library which contains all the code, and then you don't have to edit it. Some people prefer linked projects, some people prefer PCLs. Again, use what you want. So that's a very highlight of getting started and creating a multi-platform solution. Any content, comments, and suggestions you want, post them on the video. And happy monogaming, everyone. For the text version of this, there will also be a blog post we posted, as always. And let's get on. Go build games, do what you want, and enjoy. And happy monogaming. And obviously, solidarity, brothers and sisters. Goodbye.